Welcome to the HBCU podcast. You're listening to episode 48. If you're an avid listener or just joining us for the first time, here we're joined by some awesome HBCU grads in the form of co-host and guest. We also focus on all the great things HBCU alumni are doing all over the world. On this episode, we speak with Danielle Deadwyler. She's a graduate of Spelman College. Danielle is a multidisciplinary performance artist, actor, and filmmaker. She's graced the stages of theaters, big screens, and television screens with guest star roles on BET's Being Mary Jane, OWN's Greenleaf, and Tyler Perry's The Have and Have Nots. You can also see her in the upcoming Reckoning, set to hit theaters this fall. During this episode, we discuss her HBCU experience and her artistry in depth. Keep listening. It's the HBCU podcast.
Hi, I'm Danielle Deadwyler, and I am a 2004 graduate of Spelman College.
Yay! So, Danielle, again, thank you so much for agreeing to be a guest on the podcast. I'm so excited because you're our first guest from Spelman.
Oh my goodness, thank you.
Yeah, I was like, we have to get someone on the podcast from every HBCU. That's our goal. And
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, I was really hoping to get someone from Spelman because I've been really interested in. I do know a few women who graduated from Spelman, but I'm always like excited for them to share their story, especially going to like an
Yes,
all
I'm
women's
surprised. You
college.
could have jumped with somebody else, but it's little old me.
Little you, okay, little you. But let's start talking about you, and we'll talk about you as you grew up. So you're an Atlanta native. Tell us a little bit about yourself and like how you grew up. What was young Danielle like?
Oh dear, she was a mess. Little Danielle grew up in Capitol View community of Atlanta, Georgia, which is right off of University and Stewart Avenue. Stewart Avenue is no longer, it is now Metropolitan Parkway and has, gone through a lot of redressing since, the changing of the kind of aesthetic and developmental and economic guard in Atlanta. But I grew up in 1980s Atlanta when, kids were being sent to all kinds of art programs all the time. So that was kind of my foray into my I don't know, my career, my passions,
Mm-hmm.
not careers, because it's more about passions. Nothing's been driven economically quite yet at 4 and 5. But I loved dancing in front of the TV. My mother says I would dance to Soul Train. And she
Yes.
said, "Girl, I'm gonna put you in dance." And so I started dancing with like Marlene Rose and Total Dance Theater. And when I got older, into like middle school and high school, into with um, Greg Harrison.
Okay.
Yeah, and so my mom was integral in making that happen and being a part of programs like that and fostering my technical and artistic dance career, which was a natural segue into theater. They go hand in hand. So developing character, exploring all kinds of ways of being. I was with Atlanta Street Theater when I got to upper elementary, middle school, and so
Okay.
that was more of a like direct, you know, technical and learning the fundamentals of what theater is, and which took place at Clark,
Mm-hmm.
um, uh,
Some of your
and that
first
was
HBCU connections.
experiences. Yeah, yeah, like those classes were there in their mass comm building when what was the old store that was over there? We used to go get food. I think it was Woody's. I can't remember the name, but it was a place you would go get food. Now that's gone, So
Mm-hmm.
it's all of these staples that were a part of Atlanta culture in old Atlanta, as a lot of people would say,
Okay.
are the things that fostered me into seeking art and just not even seeking art, just art being a part of my life,
Yeah.
being a mainstay, a critical component of my development. Yeah.
Now, Was it just you, or do you have brothers and sisters? And
Oh, I am a part of a clan of four. I'm number three of four. My sister was she was the initial artist, and she was in theater and
okay.
things of that nature. So my mom would always, and if one kid gets to do something, then it just funnels down to everybody else. My brothers took dance because if one person gonna do dance, everybody gonna do dance. Like
Everybody's
that
doing it.
wasn't their thing. It's not that boys can't do, but it was like, okay, I feel my mother wanted everybody to have a well-rounded experience. Like everybody in my family played soccer, like
Nice.
literally everybody played soccer, or both of my parents coached, and everybody did taekwondo. It like literally everybody participated in these things, whether at the same time or at different points, but it was something that helped us to foster a sense of discipline, a sense of devotion to something
Right.
that helps you, foster your life, helps you develop character, helps you create community, and gets you into your body. So that's been, just a critical part of growing up.
That's
Mhm.
cool. I know that if you're fortunate enough to be able to take part in all that kind of stuff as a young kid, that is really awesome for like character development as you get older. So that's
Yeah.
awesome that you guys had that opportunity. Did you do visual arts as well? Like, was anyone a painter? Does anyone draw? Do you do it
You know
all?
what? This is the crazy part. My One of my mom's really really good best friends. She was a visual artist, and we would go over her house all the time. A visual artist named Velma Ludaway. Velma was just she was a painter, and she did abstract work, and um she would incorporate Ghanaian symbols into her portraits, not portraits, but into her works, and she would always be a part of the National Black Arts Festival. Like it was like every time the festival came around, she always had a booth, and so we would just be going to her house all the time. I would see her work literally all over the house. We would see her developing things. She would talk about like it was just a part of my growing up. So I didn't conceive of it as, oh, this thing. Oh yeah, I'm learning visual art.
Right.
No, it was this is mom's best friend. We always go to Velma's house. Velma treats us like this. We get to go outside and play. We eat here. We do this.
Mm-hmm.
This is this is like it didn't even occur to me. I did a performance art piece last year, and a symbol that was always in the house because it's one of her works found its way into the work that I was doing, and
Wow.
I didn't even register it. It was just like it was this subconscious thing that was driving me to get to where I was presently last year in incorporating that into work. So it's your family's always teaching you, your community's always teaching you, and that's what Velma was, and visual art was always there,
Right.
right?
Subconsciously, you didn't even
Yeah, it
know it.
was. Mm-mm, mm-mm. And of course did stuff in like high school. I went to Grady High School,
Okay.
and Grady is, at that time when they had magnet programs, communications was the magnet for Grady. So you were doing anything mass comm oriented. You were learning how to write and, as a part of literary compositions and publishing like for newspaper and yearbooks and stuff. So you were learning that. You
Mm-hmm.
were doing forensics. So that was inclusive of theater and debate, um, performing in theater programs, learning to do all those things together. So it wasn't like, oh, like North Atlanta, where North Atlanta was theater and dance and all of that strictly. Grady was a little bit more of a comprehensive development of the arts. So that just, that that just triggers me back to knowing that, okay, all multiple disciplines are being honed at the same time in my personal development.
Nice. That's
Hmm.
awesome. As a young person, all of that
For
happening.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with all of this, just creativity around you, your sisters, brothers, because I think I heard you mention, you said it's three of you, but I've listened to a few
It's
other
four.
interviews
I'm
you had.
I'm number three of four.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. Nice big family.
Mhm. Mhm.
But with all the creativity happening around you guys, you would think, hey, I am beelining for a career right into this. But what exactly was it that led you, from from middle school, high school, and then into Spelman College? What was the decision making like to take that path?
I did not intend to go to Spelman at all.
Okay.
That's the crazy part. I did not intend to do art at all. I knew it would be a part of my life, but I was figuring myself an academic. My sister was a history sociology major in undergrad at Columbia
Hmm.
University, and I was like, oh, so well, I'm going to New York, baby. I'm gonna go and live the New York life, and because that's great. Because I would go visit my sister like every spring break, and that was like and by myself, getting on the plane, doing the to do. It was always like a kind of rite of passage and a bonding and connection with my sister
Hmm.
because we have a little bit of years apart. But just thoroughly look up to my sister, still do, and value her in every way. So going up there, I was like, well, I'm about to do this. And then when it came time for me to get ready to go to college, I went up to spend a weekend at one of the schools. I ain't saying school. And it was diversity weekend. It was like, no, minority weekend.
Okay.
And they flew me up. I was like, this is great. And I got up there and um, I stayed with some non-minorities, some white girls.
Uh huh.
And it didn't it was not the experience that I was looking for. Um, and I said to myself, no, I think I want to stay home. No, I think I want to home myself amongst um, folk who look like me
Yeah.
and folk who are moving through things that are comparable to me. Uh, I think it once again was another one of those subconscious things. I purely and plainly believe like ancestors were like, nah, we got a little more work on you to do.
Right.
And so I was a part of a program from like middle to high school with Morehouse. It was called a Morehouse Pipeline Program.
Okay.
And this was specifically geared toward developing minority students in math and science.
Hmm.
And so I did that for like 4 years, and were supporting students who were a part of the program who wanted to go to Morehouse or Spelman. And I knew that that was an option. I decided to pivot and do that, and that's how I ended up at Spelman.
Oh wow.
Hmm.
Now, with you going up, checking out New York, kind of hoping to follow in your sister's footsteps, but being raised in Atlanta, and it seems like all over and having, so much reach around the city. How much time prior to that had you spent at any of the area's HBCUs, at Morehouse, at Clark, at even on Spelman's campus, or were you very familiar with the term at the time? Because I know it's been more visible these days than I believe like back in the early 90s and 80s. Yes, different world was kind of like popping, but I don't think we were all so pro HBCU. So,
I think I was very aware of a different world and found that to be just exciting and and beautiful. But I think I don't know. I was looking for something else in my collegiate experience. I don't know. But when I had that minority weekend experience, that was the trigger that said you are looking for this thing subconsciously that you weren't necessarily thinking about when you were filling out college applications.
mm-hmm.
Um, and I had come to Clark. I had come to Morehouse. I was on campus almost every summer before for up to 4 years before graduating. So it was just a part of who I was. And sometimes as a kid you're interested in something completely different from what you've been aesthetically akin to. I'm a part of this culture. I'm a part of this community. I grew up. I mean, Capitol View is down the street from the AU.
Right.
So literally, I would walk from home to the bus to the MARTA station, or walk from the MARTA station home, and go the other way. It wasn't a thing for me to not like really hit the pavement with my own 2 feet. So I was thinking, and my mother was really supportive of all of us going somewhere else to have a collegiate
She
experience,
didn't
wanting us to
necessarily want you to have to
yeah,
stay in
she wanted
Atlanta.
no, she didn't. She wanted us to truly expand, and expand ourselves amongst other communities to learn and be supported and just push ourselves because to go away from home is to learn oneself, but to come back is to learn a different self. So I I didn't conceive of it as something that I necessarily wanted, but until I went away
Gotcha.
and said I definitively want to have this kind of an experience. So but yeah, like Atlanta Street Theater, every those were summers that were spent on the AU campus. Every summer during the Morehouse Pipeline program, that was the
Hmm.
summer spending doing science and math related things. Like it was just it's always been a part of my development.
So once you got to Spelman, what was your major?
Oh, I was immediately a history major. Immediately, there were no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
And what made you decide to go
Focusing.
that route?
I had always appreciated history. Learning cultural narratives.
Hmm.
It's not as strict as this happened this year, this happened this year, this happened this year. I was pretty good. I was, I'm darn tootin' good at learning, facts and associating them with years and being extremely linear like that. I'm a Taurus. Apparently people say we're stubborn. I don't get it, but that was something that it was just easy for me to fall
Okay.
right into that. Yeah. Yeah. I had no intentions to do art. I had no intentions to be a theater major.
Yeah, that was going to
um
be like my next question because I
mm-mm,
you said here
mm-mm,
history. So
mm-mm, mm-mm. History, and then I took a lot of English. I took yeah, really honing in that kind of a weird kind of cultural anthropological approach, though anthropology wasn't my course load, and I did some sociology work as well because was really thinking I was going to be an academic.
mhm.
um and it wasn't like I was like art's going to go somewhere. No, I did theater productions whilst I was at the school. I did one like every year, I think.
Oh,
um so art was always standing alongside an academic draw. It was like we're having these on the same. They're on the same plane. They don't get. I was definitively thinking you do not do one without the other.
I
They
see.
That's just how that happens. And so that's how it went when I was in Spelman too.
Yeah. So while you were at Spelman and you kind of, I guess you say you did some of the art, you were still in plays. When
Hmm.
did you decide, hey, this is the route that I'm going to take as, I guess, a career path or?
That didn't happen until after I left. I graduated. I got into Columbia for grad school. I was still on the academic
Academic
path.
track.
It was like, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. I went and did my bid there. I still did theater there. Um, and then I graduated and I was like, oh, well, let me go ahead and apply for a doctoral program. Got I was like a finalist at Emory. I was like, I'm gonna come back home. So I did New York, right? I did New York. I was like, okay, cool. Everything comes around when it's supposed to come around for you.
Yeah.
And I was thinking I was going to come back, be in the women's studies department at Emory. I ended up not getting it. I was doing an internship at the governor's with the governor's program, and I was just like, "What am I going to do now?" And then I ended up getting a job teaching at an elementary school for 2 years.
Okay.
It was beautiful, but it wasn't for me. And after those 2 years, I applied. No. I auditioned for Color Girls with and Jasmine Guy was directing it,
Oh,
and it was an
wow.
independent production, and that was like 2006, somewhere in there.
Hmm.
And that was like that last year of teaching into doing that production was the marker, the defining marker to say this is not what I this is not what I want to do. I do not want to be in academia. I don't even want to teach. Not that I don't want to be in academia. I don't want to be in academia in this at this level. I
Right.
want to do something else. I also try to put art to the side, and it is not a side dish at all. And so from there on, that's when I decided to just go full fledged ahead with the work. Hmm.
So you went. on to grad school after
Hmm.
Spelman with
Hmm.
plans of being Danielle Deadwyler, PhD. And
Hmm.
you ended up doing theater, and that's how you said. What was it during that particular time? Do you remember a moment where you said, this is it. This is what I'm made for."
I think it was one, like it's the simplest things. I would read to the class.
Mm-hmm.
I would be reading. We would have read alouds. I was doing fifth grade at the time. I did fourth grade first, and then we did fifth grade, and I just enjoyed that simple act of sharing a story.
Mm-hmm.
It's the simplest thing, which is what we do in film, television, and theater right now. Like you're sharing a story, but it was just me communicating those 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 tales every day. I think I would do a read aloud every day, and that was the thing that said, "Oh, Danielle, that's what you. This is. I would desperately love that part of the day
Yeah.
in class, and that's when the students would be most attuned with
Mm-hmm.
me, and it's like, oh well, this makes all the sense in the world.
They're
Just
paying
makes all the sense in the
attention.
world.
I'm
They're.
excited about this.
I'm excited. They're quiet and excited. Um, we're enthralled in this together. This is what you're supposed to be doing."
Yeah. Nice.
And like that's not even hitting me. That hit me just in having this conversation, that's when it happened. I knew I was not happy. Um, I was not at my best self
Mm-hmm.
in that second year doing that job, because it became a job in that way. But finding the moments, becoming aware of the moments where I was feeling top notch,
Yeah.
and I was communicating top notch energy and receiving top notch energy back. That's
Th-
that
that
was it.
clicked it for you.
Hmm.
Now,
Hmm.
you talked about For Color Girls working with Jasmine Guy
Hmm.
doing theater. Um, because you've had such a awesome career thus far, and I'm sure you'll be going on to do really great things as well.
I got work to do. I got more work to do.
I guess this is my question because I see that you've done theater, you've done television, you've done film. Is there a particular area that you prefer, or are you just always pleased to tap your toe in each of the areas?
Theater is undeniable. It's older than all of those.
Mm-hmm.
It will, when the Wi-Fi goes out, you got theater.
That's true.
You know what I mean? When the electricity is blowed, you got theater.
Right.
And that's the most fundamental thing of can you communicate something intimately between you and a person or a group of people. And that's the most raw, it's the most electric, it's the most erotic, like thinking of erotic energy, like where you're feeling like in your most vital sense of self. um, there's no other feeling than that. I'm not saying I love one more than the other, but I know I can't I can't not do theater,
Yeah.
you know. Um and there's a different kind of intimacy that takes place with film and TV, because it's not necessarily about it's not the audience isn't there with
Right.
you yet. The audience comes after. The audience is the last ingredient for theater. um and so those are just two different energies. And considering I came from theater first, it always has a particular kind of place. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Assume that everyone who in the acting world, they hope to have, what is it, a an agent or someone who helps them you
Yeah.
know get work. But how do you go about choosing what it is that you'll do next? Oh, you're going to take a play for the next year, or you're going to do this film or a television role. How do you land on what's your next move?
Things actually come to you are a part of a pool of people who are asked to audition for things, or you seek to audition for things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's really it's there's no kind of preconceived thing about it. It's my agents send me stuff. I seek out things. I learn about projects coming. We kind of pull those things together. People say or not they want you to whether or not they want to see you for it, and it's kind of like the throwing of the die. Um, and you can say yay or nay to it. You can say yay or nay to even the notion of auditioning. Um, and it's just about what makes sense for you at the time. Where people talk about jobs coming to you, opportunities coming to you at a particular point in your own personhood. Because having you can't a job can't make sense, a character can't make sense until you've actually gone through it in some kind of a way.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that like people who give birth and have never had children they they still perform it, but once
Right.
you've done it, you know, it's a whole nother damn level, right? So with that being said, like I think things come to me that I'm supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
um i think I think what's meant for you is meant for you,
Yeah.
you know. And that's kind of how it flows. I think that's how it flows. I'm not like trying to be overly pushy about anything.
Mm-hmm.
If I know that I want something, I know that, you know, some projects have written up in certain publications, and I say, oh man, I'm with that. That's what I'm here for. And it may be 2 years until that thing actually comes, but I made it a statement and I put it
Put
out
it
there
in the universe.
that I'm here for that. And you dibble and dabble with your agent, you dibble and dabble with yourself, and they happen. It made it happen.
Yeah.
And that's 2 years prior, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the crazy part. But like you ask for it, you can get it,
And you got to
but
be
you got to get
patient.
it in the way that's best for you. Yo, whew, if you ain't got no patience in this, what is you doing?
Yeah, I love that. We had, well, not too long ago, spoke to she is a visual artist, a painter and portraits. And she kind of had the same views as you know, just kind of like going
Mhm.
through, making the statement, setting your intentions, that type of thing when it came to what it is she was going to be up to next. And
Yeah.
I really love that about individuals in the art world. Even if you're not in the art world, that's something that you can take with you as well. But
Oh yeah.
it seems like the mantra a little bit for individuals who are in the arts.
I mean, you want to take the right, but see, that's the thing. Like a lot of people talked about with for actors, you got to be able to do other things too.
Hmm.
Because it might be a long time between a gig. Uh, at no fault of your own, it's just the lay of the land. Um, and because you're you're bigger than just one thing.
Right.
Uh, and it does, but yeah, that's how I look at it. And that's, I mean, honestly, what segued me into doing performance art and to developing work that's a bit more experimental,
Hmm.
where I had more control, where I could explore themes that are of interest to me and present them in a way that is, you know, not at the behest of anyone else but myself. That's critically um, looking at an interiority that is not always out there, that is not pedestalized. So, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I love that you. I've heard also, and then also reading your statement, and then some of the other things that you've done. You just don't kind of like pigeonhole yourself. I know we've talked a lot about acting, but you know, produce and do performance art, or what would you consider if you were to give yourself a title? Would it be more so performance artist than
An
actress
actor?
or actor?
Um, I mean, uh, uh, eh, I'm whatever I'm supposed to be at the time.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the end of the day, it's, you know, it's artist, it's creator. They all fall under that hub. Um, and and at the end of the day, I'm just a massive collaborator because nothing that I do is singular or wholly solo. Um, and that's important to me,
Hmm.
because I believe in having those conversations. I believe in you push yourself by being pushed and pushing back um, with the people who are caring and loving and want to see you manifest the best of yourself, and me wanting to see the best of whomever I'm collaborating with manifest the best of themselves. So yeah, a creator and a collaborator. That's what I feel I do.
I like it.
Mhm.
So for you, what is your favorite or part of the process, or what does the process look like for you? You get a call from your agent, you've just been, cast or asked to be a part of a movie or a performance. What does your process look like?
It's anxiety and tension. uh, because immediately upon learning about an audition, it's like, oh, it's such a it's a thing to read the breakdown. It's a thing to ingest whatever that story is. You get a couple of lines on what it is, and then you get sighs, and you're just like, you have to, it's imbibing a whole nother world. So I think, I like it all, because the minute the stress comes, it's not a negative stress. It's something you want to take on, because then I got to start learning and doing the prep work and doing the research. I mean, different sides, and the
Hmm.
sides are a script, a small amount of script that they send you to audition with. Once you get that, it's like, the all of these waves come of how am I going to deal with this? How am I going to approach this? And everything is approached differently,
Right.
because everything is unique unto itself. So you do that. You go through the process of taping or having an in-person audition, and then there's a wave of release that happens once that happens. Once you're done with that, because it's just the dynamism of the building up and then the crash down, the building up and the crash down, and you may have to do that 3 or 4 times depending on whose movie it is and what they want.
Hmm.
Some things you might just audition once and that'll be it. Some things you might audition 4 or 5 times, and then you may not get it, or you might.
Yeah.
That's just it. But appreciating all of that, all of the up and the down, the wave, riding each undulation is the dopest part of it. And appreciating not getting it and appreciating getting it, either side, because it's all in support of you learning and having fun through each and every step. I know there's some people listening like that's bullshit, but it is, because that's you being present.
Right.
It's the greatest part. If you're not present, then you've missed it.
It seems like from your conversation that you, of course, are very passionate about every facet of film, theater, and the process in general. And
Hmm.
being an Atlanta native, you probably hear a lot of people say these days, um, you know, calling the area the Black Hollywood, or film and television shows.
Sure.
A lot of that
Yeah.
is that happening now around that area. But just being from there, growing up there, I do want to ask you, how has the art scene, the whole scene, entertainment scene, I guess, changed or evolved, since your start?
Strangely enough, theater is still somewhat on the same wavelength, though there are more theater. We've had more theaters per capita in the country for a long
Oh,
time, but we don't
wow.
have as much funding as other cities or major theater cities. Um, but and it's that's been the most critical mainstay for me and the community that I've come up with. Um, there are other theater companies that are coming up who are doing more experimental work, who are doing things um, non traditionally, who are outside, who are doing things in small spaces, in homes and stuff. It's so many different aspects of how to present live work that has been presented here, and that's really, really freaking exciting. Stuff that I was seeing in New York when I was a kid, going to visit my sister. I see, people really taking those structural and aesthetic um, leaps and bounds here. So that's really awesome here. I have OGs who talk about how Atlanta was. You weren't getting an audition in Atlanta. You weren't doing a show in Atlanta for film and television.
Yeah.
You people were barely getting, you weren't getting let alone a lead or a series regular option. That's not happening. You would have to drive, and I had to do this early on too, before the like big changeover to ATL Wood or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Driving 2 hours to go to a callback, driving 3-4 hours to go to a callback for an audition for a commercial.
Oh,
This ain't
wow.
even, yeah. So those things are changing. I don't know what it is to be somebody who is moving here from LA or New York or any other small town and to experience it
Yeah.
now, because I know that I've been here and I've witnessed people not getting opportunities in a particular kind of way. You're just going to do day player stuff or not getting above the line in a particular manner, not being supporting or support or lead or whatnot. I've been blessed to have particular opportunities here and outside of the city, which has been fantastic. But it's a push happening here that I think won't. I don't. It hasn't quite crossed over in the way that it is for people who are in New York or LA quite yet. It's
Okay.
just those are cultural hubs. Those are film and TV hubs that just they just have what they have. Um, but I see more people. I see productions here. I see friends who work in crew positions.
Mm-hmm.
um they work all the time, they stay eating,
Yeah.
and that's really phenomenal. And anything that is challenging that, and challenging womanhood, or challenging uh, people who are in lower economic spaces or whatnot. That is a difficulty that we're facing at this juncture. So we got a lot going on, but we have things that are trying to challenge that. And um, it's a beautiful thing. The economy of the city has, and the state has grown. I don't know the numbers, but it's
Yeah.
huge. It's pushing the economy in the billions, and that's phenomenal.
Right.
But yeah, you want that to stay. You need that to stay.
Yeah, absolutely. I know from what I know I've read and witnessed, I've only lived in Georgia for maybe about 10 years now. And
That ain't no small feat.
but I live in Augusta, Georgia. I don't live in Atlanta.
Okay, that's different.
Yeah, right. A little bit different, but
It's a little different.
I visit. I was actually there today at the airport, and now I'm back home. But it's been really awesome to see just how the city has changed, and then how opportunities are coming about, and just sharing what you shared about how the theater scene has been a mainstay, but there's so many other opportunities for film and television. I do want to
Mm-hmm.
talk a little bit more about film, television, the entertainment industry in Atlanta, and then the HBCUs that exist there too, because
Mm-hmm.
of course we're going to talk a little bit more about Spelman, but we've seen Spike Lee, Samuel L. Jackson, Brian Tyree Henry, all of those
Mm-hmm.
fellas come out of Morehouse.
Mm-hmm.
Danielle Deadwyler come out of Spelman. What is it, do you think, for HBCUs? Because I know a lot of our schools don't always have theater programs. They did once upon a time. Not a lot of
Mm-hmm.
them are still liberal arts schools. But what is it that you could encourage or impart upon someone who still wants a college experience, but they're still kind of testing the water on whether or not they're going to go down the role of being an actor, actress, producer, filmmaker? What type of advice do you have for?
Yeah. I would say I've always. Let me say this. A mentor figure once said that a lot of folks come into who are challenging and have just a different kind of a thing. You're always trying to hone that part of yourself that makes you different, that is supremely unique.
Mm-hmm.
We try to imitate other people, but really we want to get to the core of who you are. Like what makes you tick? How does that manifest physically? How does that manifest within your interior? And so it's exploring more than just the art. I think that's the critical thing, at least for me. I wasn't. doing theater while I was at Spelman. I was in the history department. Funny enough, I wanted to take a visual art class, and my lazy ass wouldn't get up for the 8 a.m. course. um, I started and then I dropped it, but I had enough credits. I was okay. Um, I think that that's something pivotal to the experience of any kind of artist, and especially for that of an actor. You you gotta live.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta live. If you're doing period pieces, it doesn't hurt to know. Um, it doesn't have it hurt to have a history background from which to know how to explore and find resources that will get you just that much more close to the fingerprint of what it means to be in this particular time. It doesn't hurt to know what the experience of being in a business school or department, what that is. It doesn't hurt to know something else,
Yeah.
because those are the things. That's what you will be living when you are doing this work. And I would say that was hyper unique and pivotal for my experience. And even for people who were theater majors, I know they did other things.
Had a
I
little
think that
dimension.
a minor in something else, an exploration in um, an extracurricular that is completely something else, not just being, another kind of sport or whatnot. Though, the physical is very pivotal to being a part of this career, film, TV, or theater. Like, hone yourself fully and completely. It's a question of just of, are you seeking to be thoroughly curious in what interests you, and how can you bring that knowledge that you have from these other things, these other departments, into the work that you seek to do as an actor or as an artist in general. And if you're an artist, you're an artist. If you're an
Yeah.
actor, you're an actor. It doesn't go away. It won't go away. It doesn't want to. It's gonna come back on you whenever it feels like kicking your ass. Because that's exactly what it did to me.
So let's talk a little bit more about Spelman. Spelman, as I mentioned before earlier in our conversation, we haven't had anyone on the podcast from Spelman College, so excited that you're here. Um, this college has so much history. It's unique in that only two of the only women's HBCUs. So talk a little bit about how different that college experience was for you. Just being around, dynamic, intelligent, beautiful women all the time.
What you want to see, right? You want to be a part of a space where you feel wholly comfortable. That's because I went to all black elementary school, and then when I came to middle school and high school, that shifted. And being a part of advanced programs, you start to see that you are by yourself,
Hmm.
or it's just you and maybe one other black child or other minority child. So coming to a space where it's just us and people are pushing you, and they are also pushing your critical analysis of your history in a multidisciplinary, multifold kind of way. Um, that's straight up comfort and challenge at the same time, because they're expecting the greatest from you, and yet you are able to vocalize yourself in um, a certain way of comfort.
Hmm.
I remember Professor, you know, relating things in a way that I wouldn't necessarily have gotten at a PWI. And she's a black woman, so she's talking to me about we're talking about historical things, and then she's being critical of being able to connect it in a kind of way that makes it more real, because she is who she is and has had particular experiences that are kin to mine, or that is an admonition for me, because I am who I am and I look like her, and that the potential of these things that have happened for her can potentially happen for me. So it I always felt comfortable on Spelman's campus. I
Hmm.
always felt like, you where you're supposed to be. It's
Yeah.
not. This ain't no question, you know. It doesn't feel weird or or icky in the way that you can in other spaces.
Yeah.
And those, you know, that always felt great. Um, I think that was the most dynamic thing for me because I was seeking that and I was wanting that after having had, you know, years of being uh, one of a few,
Right.
you know, and having that experience in that minority weekend where it was like you y'all all gonna come this weekend, but it's definitely not amounting to who else will be here, let alone did we create a space to where we definitively wanted to have you here because we put you with somebody who doesn't look like you, right? So Spelman knew, I mean, Spelman is there to be home,
Mm-hmm.
and it felt like home.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
because it was at home.
Yeah, it was your home for like what, the
It
next
was
four
home.
years, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was right up the street. So that
Were you
I
that
think that
close?
was
Yeah, you
pivotal.
were that close
I
to
was
home.
literally that close to home.
So you lived on
Yeah.
campus, or?
I did not coming that incoming year. Our class was the largest that had been in, I don't know, forever. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. I think ever. And so I mean, they got new housing and whatnot now, but no, that wasn't an opportunity for me. I remember a couple other people who were Atlanta home girls who
Okay.
didn't get to have the on campus experience, but that was all right. We got our off campus popping real quick.
You had the commuter experience.
The commuter
The
experience.
commuter experience.
hmm But like one of my best friends, she lived in Abbey, and she lived in another of the historical ones. Like I had folks on campus, and like was able to build a particular kind of kinship and sisterhood with folks who were a part of specific houses that allowed me to, you know, have that connection, even
Mm-hmm.
though I didn't live on campus. But they still expected the same thing from you. They still expected you to know the historical aspects of the school. They still expected you to be present for convocation, and they still expected you to do all of the things are that each student was to do,
Yeah.
and I did them. Mm-hmm.
Fully. So, with you being a history major and then you saying all the expectations that were there, was there anything about Spelman's history that surprised you or something that you didn't know already just being around?
The history of the school,
Yeah,
or
just the history of the school or that you like learned about while you were there.
I'm, I'm, I've I've always appreciated knowing that something extends beyond me, and that's the whole weird thing about experiencing Atlanta changing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Spelman has changed along the way too. It has expanded. It has eradicated certain buildings. But to know when you take in, you ingest those images of black women in all white, like that traditionalism, that history, that connection. That it's not a surprise. It's a sinking into earth that you are you are valuable as these things that have made this ground, that have created this foundation for you to be present, that foundation was present. It's like it's a crazy like spiritual kind of thing. There's a kind of kinship that happens, a sisterhood that happens in learning that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that makes you that's the surprise. Like it's not like Greek. It's bigger than that.
Yeah.
It's the whole inception of this thing, and now you are a part of that.
What is some of your favorite memories from Spelman, just undergraduate life? I don't know if it's
Can't nobody
homecoming.
talk about that. That's not appropriate. You know what? Actually, I really appreciated um, the inception of college life for me. Um, they had what is it? The olive branch.
Mm-hmm.
experience where that's a linking of Morris Brown, Clark,
Okay.
Spelman, Morehouse. That that weekend, it was like, it's like the opening weekend of school, and it's just a way to say that you attend your individual college or university, but we are all here together. We are all here trying um, to develop on the same accord, and we are all connected, like, let's work within that framework. I thought that was major. Plus it's just like black folk, and they out, and it's just all us, and we're on the, on the walk on Clark's campus, and you just us. It's a sea. It's the most amazing thing you could possibly look at, which can get folk in trouble. You can't
Yeah.
hang out all the time. You should probably go to class. But that, I mean, it's just navigating that as a freshman. Like, that's just dope. What else? Um, Everybody who was my friend at that freshman year, they're still my friends to this day.
Okay.
It's some of the most visceral, uh, singularly important relationships that I've developed in my life, that saw me go from a particular kind of young. I mean, you're still in puberty in a way, going
Yeah.
into college. So stepping out of that pubescent phase into a young adulthood, and then those people are still with me. Those people are still challenging me. Those people still love me. Those are critical, memories. Um, and from the experience that I still get to hone. We just all got together for the last homecoming, which we hadn't all been together in a very long time,
Oh,
because
wow.
a couple of us are mothers, and we all live in different parts of the country. But it's it's um it's really beautiful to come back together, and to know that you stepped from youth to a full on adulthood, and you did that together in a
Yeah.
way. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love what you mentioned, the olive branch experience,
Yeah.
because I think the Atlanta, the AU, that area, you're just one of the probably the only area of schools or HBCUs that get that experience. Everybody else is so spread out. So
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah, that's pretty
Mhm.
cool.
Mhm.
So, we always like to talk about giving back here on the HBCU podcast, trying to encourage everyone to give back to their HBCUs. And of course, giving looks different depending on who you are and how you like to give. So, for you, what does giving back look like to you for Spelman College?
Oh man. Spelman keeps giving to me. Which is, strangely enough, I've um offering oneself for further development within the gates has been a kind of give and take, a giving back, of being present for students who, like, I've worked in theater with Kenny Leon's True Colors Theater Company, with Horizon, and a lot of folks who come from Spelman or the AU campus in general come to those theaters to learn to be theater makers.
Mm-hmm.
They are interns at these spaces, and that's been a kind of practice in giving back, a practice in helping to hone those who are going to help usher in what it means to be an artist, and so that's been critical. Um, Spelman has given me the opportunity to hone myself as a performance artist, as a creator in my own right,
Mm-hmm.
and that's been pivotal. Working with the museum in various capacities to present new work, to challenge me as an artist, to create a space for me to interface with the community more. That's also been a part of the giving back, and the giving back of them to me and me to them, and being present on the campus and being available for conversation. Going back to the university when asked by professors to participate in any kind of way that they desire, that's been critical for me to have an ongoing relationship with the community, one that is spherical and constantly shifting of energy between myself and it. So that's what community feels like. That's what giving back feels like to me.
Nice. Yeah, I'm so glad you shared that. All of us, we're always talking about giving back monetarily, and it is important. We all know that,
Hmm.
but I think just sharing your time and sharing your talents is so much more impactful, and it's really awesome that you
And it's
do
a part
that.
that never goes away.
Yeah, it
A
stays
memory
with you.
stays with people. It's ephemeral, but it stays. That money needs to come in a certain kind of way. Of course it does, but
Right.
that time is a whole nother thing. Hmm.
Now, we've touched, and I know we've talked a lot about theater and we've talked a lot about acting, but we haven't spoken specifically about all of the awesome things that you've been a part of. So you
Oh,
you're like, no, stop
do we
it,
have
don't.
to?
Well, I know that you carved out some time for us because you're working on something. So I do definitely want to share for you to share what you have coming up next that we should be on the lookout for. One of my favorite roles. You've been in a lot of things. So you guys take some time out to check her out, her IMDb, all of that. But what are you working on right now? What should we be on the lookout for? And if you can at all, tell us what's up with Atlanta. Is it coming back?
Y'all saw that? I look okay. I would love to go back to Atlanta. Atlanta is was a was a wild, beautiful experience. But they are coming back. I read that they'll be doing season 3 and season 4 apparently next spring. So
With
that
you.
means you.
You're coming too.
No, I don't know. No, I don't. I'm not saying that. Mm-mm, mm-mm. Nope. I would love to do it, but yeah, me and a couple of the girls like who were on there together that Champagne Poppy episode, we talk about how like yeah, they said would you want to? Hell yes, we would come back to plays. I mean that would be critical and phenomenal, but we'll wait and see. So probably won't see anything from them for like another year,
Okay.
but I have other things coming. I don't know if I quite talked about them, but I'll say they're on some cable shows, and so
Yay.
none of that. Something will be out this fall. I'll probably post that closer to when that happens
Okay.
in later in the fall, and then some stuff will pop off in 2020. And I'm working on some performance artwork and some documentary work. I was just awarded a Dream Warriors Spark grant to
Congratulations.
thank you to it's an experimental work that I've been collecting for like the past several years, like 5 years, and so I finally got some support to complete that, and then I will have a solo exhibition next year as a part of Mint Gallery's Leap Year program.
Oh,
So
nice.
that's all in the works.
Well, very cool.
Yeah.
Listen, again, like I mentioned, IMDb, you can keep up with Danielle, see all of the things that she's been a part of. We, of course, will have all of the links to everything that she's done. And, of course, she'll be sharing what she has coming up. That'll be in our show notes as well. Danielle, can you tell everyone where they can find you, if they can follow you on social media? And
Of course, I'm much more active on Instagram, which is just my whole name, Danielle Deadwyler, and then I have a Facebook page under that same name. I have what else? I have a Twitter. I am less participative there. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I'm slightly social media shy.
oh, no.
Just a little bit. I'm much more individual, so that's why I like IG a little bit
Gotcha.
more. But yeah, I put things up on there all the time. Oh, not to mention, I have a film. Reckoning is an independent that is doing the festival circuit now, and it should have a theater run probably next year or later this year. I don't know the deets on that, but yeah, those are the things that are going on. So it's just my name, Danielle Deadwyler, for every social media handle that you can think of.
You're there.
Yeah.
Well, Danielle, thank you so much for taking your time out to speak to the HBCU podcast again. Well, we really appreciate you sharing tidbits of your HBCU experience and, of course, just some of your life with us. It's been awesome to speak with you. It's been awesome to watch you as well, and all of the things that you've been a part of. So blessings and continued success.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for listening to the HBCU podcast. We have so much more HBCU content on the way, so make sure you subscribe to the podcast, rate the podcast, and visit us at thehbcupodcast.com. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at thehbcupodcast. Like us on Facebook. We love you for listening. Until next time.